Welcome to Manage to Engage, the podcast from clearandopen.com. Dedicated to the evolution of you, because businesses grow when people do. Serving leaders, managers, and people who will be, helping you reach excellence in your work and achieve your personal goals at the same time. Sign up for the free course at clearandopen.com. What many minds will do is like, okay, well, I can't do not knowing, and I don't get to know here, so let's just fantasize that it's the worst case scenario. That way, it'll protect me from harm because it can't be any worse than this. Totally noble and sensical, except for now you're living in that virtual reality. Hi, it's Joseph, and thanks for tuning in to Manage to Engage, the podcast from clearandopen.com. Last week, we discussed how both the mission and adventure mindsets are equally valuable and dangerous. They come from a place of either trying to take total control over your life or accepting that you have no control whatsoever. But both of these perspectives are incomplete. Because the apparent truth is that you are not always in control, and you are not always helplessly experiencing whatever life throws at you. You, in reality, co-author your experience of life. So one needs to have intentions, goals, and desired outcomes, and one needs to be able to let go of those things when life is calling them to adventure, to uncertainty. So to finish this series on mission versus adventure, we'll share a couple stories about when and how people strike that balance, and how being aware of this duality will benefit you as a manager and self-manager. I offer weekly member webcasts, online courses, and mentorship at clearandopen.com because it's my truth that with the right tools, anyone can eliminate the people, money, and time problems holding them back in business. And I share parts of these webcasts and courses on this show because I want to help you too. If you're enjoying the show and learning from it, I'd love your feedback. If you're listening to the show on an Apple device, all you have to do is open up the podcast app, view the full description of this episode, and click the link to leave a rating and review for the show. Thanks so much for listening. Let's start the show.
There's one thing I've been going through that's pretty relatable to this, and that's my weight loss goals. And so I have been, investing in the effort. I work out 6 days a week. I watch what I eat. I have a thyroid issue, so that's really hampered my goals. I'm trying to get that dialed in, but I'm not divested in the outcome because I'm doing it for a bigger picture. And I feel like I need to look and feel a certain way before I get the woman that I want. So I've let it go, but I haven't let anything go because I'm dictating how and, what I have to be and look like and everything to get this woman when the opposite could be true.
Yeah.
Maybe I won't meet the right woman if I'm at the right weight.
Mm-hmm.
The right weight.
Yeah, whatever that means, right?
Whatever that means.
Yeah.
But all I want to, and so I've let go of control and I'm grasping to all of these little things,
mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't let anything go.
Mm.
But like you said, it's peeling an onion and that sort of thing. But it's just very interesting. I mean, who am I to say that?
Yeah.
At the weight I am right now, I'm going to meet the woman of my dreams.
Maybe. Yeah, you really don't get to know that.
I don't get to know that, but I am. But I'm doing it because I want to feel good. I want to be healthy. And I do want to lose weight. There are extra pounds I'm carrying that I'm not comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
But the rest needs to let go. I need to let it go.
Yeah, but it's a beautiful illustration, right? There's the true part of it. And then there's all this stuff that your mind adds on.
Right.
It's like a rider. Like, I want to lose some weight. This doesn't feel good. And then the mind's like, oh yes. And also, here are the things that certainly won't happen.
Right.
Because losing weight is a way you can be in control of meeting your mate. The mind says. And you go, and it's easy to believe that. Well, that makes sense. You want to be attractive. And then it's so easy to buy into that.
Mm-hmm. Right?
Oh, sure. Well, great. Hey, more reasons to lose weight? Sure, I'll take it. But now you've passed a bill with a rider on it that is a fantasy, right? And then that's going to change the way you engage in the whole process. Because while you're exercising, you may be beating yourself up, for example, for how unattractive you are, instead of really enjoying your workout.
Exactly. And I'm looking at like, well, wow, that was a gorgeous woman right there. She didn't even give me the time of day, and just beating myself up when I should be looking at like, hey, you know what? I've lost 15 pounds of fat and gained 10 pounds of muscle. It's not even close to where I want to be. And I'm not where, but I discount all of that.
Yeah.
And it's a slippery slope for me.
Especially. Very, yeah. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. When I walked in out of the, from the tractor experience last night, I was in a mindset of, I don't have enough money, right? Because I was in a fantasy of my tractor is totaled, which I have no idea if that's the case. What's true is it's going to cost me $80 to have my mobile mechanic come look at it. That's what's true. But I was in the fantasy of, I pushed this machine too hard and now I'm out $2,000 because I'm stupid and did a bad thing. Completely made up. And like, there was going to be the rest of my night and probably several days. And then I woke up and was like, wait a minute, I made up a fantasy here. That isn't necessarily true. And then I felt this like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if the tractor's totaled. I don't know the next time I'm going to be able to mow my lawn. And then there was this disorientation of like, whoa, that's unknown. And I could feel that's the unknown that my mind would rather replace with a known suffering. Right? That's the devil, Because what's true is an adventure has begun that was not planned. Mowers problematic. And then the images start coming up, calling my mechanic. He's always 2 weeks out. Oh, do I need to buy a new one? Will they deliver it? Oh, do I need to buy a trailer for my truck? I've been avoiding that. All of this stuff. Yeah, all those things could happen, or none of them can happen. I don't know. Now, silly Joseph mind, can you bear not knowing that? Or do you need to make up a story about it and suffer over it? That's the moment.
And the makeup is to add the certainty versus the uncertainty? Is that the core?
In my case, it's a certainty via worst case scenario.
Yes.
Right? Because that's the mind's best bet, right? It can't do not knowing as like a lived, embodied thing. It can't do it. So what many minds will do is like, okay, well, I can't do not knowing and I don't get to know here. So let's just fantasize that it's the worst case scenario. That way it'll protect me from harm because it can't be any worse than this. Totally noble and sensical, except for now you're living in that virtual reality.
Yeah. That's interesting. I'll have to think more about when I do that. I'll have to acknowledge it and accept that that's what my mind is trying to do, because I'll play the conversation for the worst scenario out in my head, and will even sometimes talk to myself about that. And it's never the best. It's never the best. It's always the worst to protect. I guess it's interesting to think about it that way.
And there's nothing wrong with that in content. It's only a problem if you believe it and start to live in that reality. Being able to worst case scenarioize is a skill. Right? It's like, okay, right? What's the worst thing that could happen? Let me prepare for that. And then that's the moment after you've done preparing, there's the thing that generally doesn't happen, where we believe the worst case scenario and we start sort of semi-consciously living according to that. And, like, oh, boy, I feel kind of down. What is it? Or, I'm feeling kind of tight and contracted. What is it? Oh, it's because last night I decided I don't have enough money, right? Because I worst case scenario right now, I'm still living in that place. The worst case scenarioizing is a tool, pick it up, and then for God's sakes, put it down and return to the unknown that is true.
Yeah.
It's just about how deeply you believe it is all.
Yeah, that's interesting. And just noticing it and thinking, putting it in its place, right?
Yeah.
For perhaps for me, I'm interested in that. I'm very focused on lists and to-dos, which is the equivalent of a mission in the conversation today.
Uh-huh.
How have you seen good managers work with their teams to help with this? So I become frustrated when we hit a spot where someone says they're going to do something, and what comes back is an adventure versus a checked off mission. It's like, I'm like, well, what do you mean that? We already had a plan. Why didn't you follow the plan, right?
Yeah. Well,
so give me a little perspective, perhaps, about what you've seen strong manager, more of a managerial or leadership skill.
That's a great question. The first thing is very much a context piece rather than a content one, and that is everyone has to be responsible for when their mission turns into an adventure by communicating to everyone else that that's happened.
Right.
If you do that, that solves 80 or 90% of all the mishaps. Because if you look at it, I was just talking to my web developer this morning who has had a pattern of letting Asana dates expire and not telling me. So then I look at the Asana dates, I see red. I get angry, see red, although that's also a little true. I see the red dates and I look at it and go, okay, I don't know if he knows these are past. I don't know what's going on. I don't know when this is going to get done. Now I'm having to supervise. And I wrote an email to him and then I was like, I shouldn't send this. I should just call him and talk to him, which I'm very proud that I did because it came across a lot more caring. And I said, for the third or fourth time, dude, it's fine that things get delayed, but it's not okay for deadlines to pass because now I'm left wondering, I have to worry, that takes my bandwidth and you've got to own this. And part of owning it means if deadlines get missed, you communicate what happened, why it happened, and you give it a new deadline.
Yeah.
There cannot be red in Asana, period. That's my standard for working with people. It can't be. And there's people who can get that, but there's A's, B's, and C's. There's A's already get that, C's will never get that, and B's can be trained to get that.
Yep, got it.
So when you get to that place, that's to me is the starting point, because if they're not being responsible for things changing and communicating with the relevant people, then you're in supervisor mode and the whole relationship is screwed.
Yep. So past that, that's a great tool, and what a great way to verbalize that. Like, I see that your to-do has turned into an adventure. Let's tell me a little bit about the adventure versus fuck didn't you finish your to-do, right?
Regale me with tales of your travels.
Exactly. Yeah, what a great way to open a conversation to have a true dialogue about what's going on versus like putting your thumb on top of someone who's already ashamed of not accomplishing something.
Totally.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, because this same developer, this happened a couple weeks before, and as my mind does, gets all pissed, like, oh man, here I am supervising again. Don't these people who work for me read my website? How could they be doing all that? And then it's like, okay, be curious, call them up, see what's going on. Turns out, like, his a close friend of his wife was killed by a drunk driver, and this horrible. And I didn't know any of that, right? And if I just send a nasty email to him about that, it would not have landed at all. And I'm like, oh, thank God for my own teachings and that I sometimes follow them,
Yeah.
So you engage in the adventure, and if you lead people to that level of responsibility, most of the other things will take care of themselves.
Yeah, interesting.
And then you're in the adventure with them. Well, what happened? Well, tell me. And you're part of the fellowship, right? How can I support you?
Yeah, I can see me saying that. Yeah, and I can see people being like, that's a whole lot better than being asked why the fuck I didn't finish it.
Yes. And as you said before, which was really important to note, when people drop balls, they already feel bad about it, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of times you show up and hold them accountable and you throw gasoline on the fire.
Yeah. And they get defensive. Or the reactions then are rarely open, honest, and forward-looking. They're usually some other type of deflection or usually blaming somebody else, trying to. Interesting.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
That's why the really turning the screw on someone it's really a last resort. It's after you've done all the other stuff to no avail.
Yeah.
And it's probably too late. I mean, and it just could be that really holding people accountable in a very firm way really only works with people who need that boundary because they just can't see themselves very well. So when you've tried all of the warm, curious stuff and it hasn't worked, it could be that they're just telling you, I need to be afraid in order to get my act together. I need it to come from outside. Sometimes that's the case. Or they're telling you, I really need to not work here anymore.
Yeah.
They're telling you that too.
We had someone that I fired. He was my second cousin and a close friend, and he was a sales manager, Tom, and we ended up firing him. And I never could figure out like what was the screw, what was the lever to turn to make him successful. And he was very intelligent, hardworking, and really smart. And his boss at his next company, he said, I just scream at him. He's like, I just yell at him. And like, after I yell at him, he gets straight. And I asked him, it was like a year later, I said, hey, Tom, like, I heard from your boss that like the way you guys interact is he just screams at you. And he's like, yeah, that's great for me. I love it. And I thought, I'm not a screamer and a yeller. Like I've already pulled that out of my personality because of all the bad things that have happened in my life up to my being 52. Nothing good comes out of that for me personally.
Yeah.
So I've left that behind and thinking, oh, that's not a solution. But for him, he's like, yeah, that's it. That's the way. Yeah, if you yell at me, and then I'll yell at you, and then we'll get it out there, and then it's over, and then I'll do it. And I'm thinking,
he probably is an Enneagram 8.
Yeah,
to look into that personality typing, it could be that he's an 8 and he needs really firm boundaries.
Interesting. Yeah.
So the last thought as we close here, something to consider that I think is really the most advanced form of relating with anyone when you're in a service or a service, sales, or management position. And that is, who exactly does that person need you to be? Because in your case, now I get it. If you knew that this person needs me to scream at them, that would be a really deep exploration of like, wow, that's what they need. Am I willing to do that? Because that's not good for a person usually.
Yeah.
So, that's the question. What does the person need you to be for them? And in what way are you called to change? Now, in that case, probably it wasn't a good thing for you. But suppose someone needs you to be so incredibly warm that it makes you feel like you're turning into syrup. Like, what if that's what they need? Because they had a really, really rough childhood. Or, that's where a manager gets really pushed. That's where it becomes an adventure. It's like, oh, okay, well, you hired this employee, thought they were just going to execute all this stuff. And it turns out you have to feel like you're turning into syrup in order to manage them. Now you're on an adventure.
Yeah, interesting.
So chew on that. That's whenever you sit down to meet with an employee, it's a really good filter to have. Who's needed here? Forget me. Who's needed? And how can I bring that aspect of me forward?
Yeah.
All right, you guys.
What's the Enneagram book again?
I like The Wisdom of the Enneagram by Rizzo and Hudson, Riso and Hudson. That's one of my favorites. There are many, but Rizzo and Hudson are my favorite authors. Helen Palmer is also a really good author. Sandra Maitre is good for more spiritual stuff, but it's a little abstract. But I'm a big fan of Rizzo and Hudson. They have a great website, the Enneagram Institute.
What is that? I don't know what that is even. The Enneagram?
The Enneagram, ENNEAGRAM.
ENNA?
ENNEA.
Okay.
Gram. It's the best personality typing system on the planet.
Got it. Thank you. I'll take a look. Okay.
Yeah, read up on 8s because that person probably is an 8. Tell me if they are.
Got it. Okay. I'll try to get some time.
With 8s, you got to make in Italian culture, they have this expression, making your bones with them. And 8 often will not trust you until you've been through a serious conflict with them.
Huh. That feels like I'd put money that was a good guess.
Yeah. Only 8s. Because for them, screaming at an 8 just would feel like kind of patting them on the back. They're thick-skinned.
Yeah.
You punch an 8 in the throat and they're like, oh, I'm sorry. Did you want to tell me something? All right, I'm listening now. And they drive most people crazy because you just have to understand that they're very thick-skinned. You gotta smack them around a little bit sometimes to wake them up. Thanks for listening to Manage to Engage, the Clear and Open podcast. Join us next week when you'll be a little bit closer to who you're destined to be. Until then, know that Clear and Open is dedicated to the evolution of you, because businesses grow when people do. If you want to help the show grow, I'd appreciate you leaving a rating and review on iTunes. All you have to do is open the Apple Podcasts app, view the full description of the episode, and click the link to leave a rating and review. Or you can go to clearandopen.com/review, and it will bring you to the right place. If you're looking for more support on your journey, head over to clearandopen.com for even more tools, articles, and free resources. Thanks so much for listening. Bye for now.